Okay, hi. So this is the Drupal usability meeting for the 2nd of May, 2017. And we are going to look at 2 issues at least. A small issue to provide access to action links in the modules page on small screens, and to improve usability of use block action forms, or generally the filters and block operations. I think the design for filters and block operations, which is a different issue. Yeah, that one. So design for filters and block operations. So do we want to start with the action links first?
Okay, can do that. It's an issue that's about 2 years old. And the problem is that on the modules page, on a smaller screen, the neither the description of the module nor any of the links underneath it are visible, like actually not accessible, because that whole column is just not there, which means anybody enabling a module on a smaller screen does not have any access to the help, permission, and configuration links. So there has been some work on it with different variations on it, on getting this buttons back, or this drop-down menu back that we had in 7, with the different action links then in the drop-down, which has the problem that when the text gets too long, we need to either the text needs to go over several lines, which was dismissed earlier as an option, or we need to cut off the text at some stage, which, given that currently we have a situation where the text is not there anyway for lots of users, or for users on small screens, and when the text is too long, we end up with the need to scroll sideways. Patch that is providing this drop-down buttons, or this drop-down menu list, but cuts off the text when it's getting too long. And when you click on it, then you have the full text. So
can we wrap the text? Is that not possible?
I think that there was a proposal to wrap the text earlier in the issue, and that got thrown out because then the text of the list of the modules page would just get too long. Especially because some modules tend to put lots of information in there, including uninstall information or so. So we don't really want to encourage people to abuse the modules page for stuff that either actually should go on the help page or onto the different admin pages. So, but yeah, there's no restriction on how long the description text could be. So,
yeah.
So that's basically the state of that issue after going back and forth for quite a while now. And that was the question, not only to have a review on whether it's working, but also whether this is now actually an acceptable solution or not.
So I don't know if I've understood it. The description, it's not on mobile, so you can't access it.
Yeah. On a mobile screen, you don't have the description text. And because you don't have the description text, you also can't get to the links that are underneath it.
Okay.
So that's a regression from 7.
Yeah. For sure.
Gabo, are you starting a Simply Test Me there?
Yeah, I'm doing that, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting to use a drop button for this.
Well, it's similar to what we had in 7, actually.
Okay.
And I mean, in that case, therefore it is consistent with other behavior. Because when people install a module, they're actually in the beginning not aware that if they go back to the module on the modules page and click on the description, that they then get the extra links.
Yeah.
Because usually you only need to read the description before you install the module.
Yeah. Then you don't go back and you don't realize you have these actions. And if you put them as drop buttons, they are more prominent. That's true. Yeah. So it looks like this.
And yeah, you see there with the block one that the text there is too long. Because the description on the block that says blocks are boxes of content will rendered into something.
Into an area or.
Yeah. So that text basically cuts off.
And the same on a relatively smaller screen size would be like this. Yeah.
It's not an ideal solution, but at least we have the functionality back on a smaller screen.
Yeah, that's if it's very small, then it's like this. Yeah, I don't know. I think I would personally need to think about this because the pattern looks, I mean, it looks odd to have these like varying size buttons with different default operations. And also some styling problems, like I don't know if you see the background color here.
Yeah.
But help has a different background and configure and permissions. But that's I guess that's minor, but still. I don't know if it just comes from the widget or if it's the widget as used in this page.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I think normally every module would have a help button if we would adhere to our standards, right?
Yeah. But at least the core ones all have a help. They
should have. Oh, we don't have help for ones that aren't enabled, right?
The core ones all have help because there's a test for it, to check whether they're linking to the documentation pages. But contract modules quite often don't have a help text.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not concerned for the cutoff on the text, honestly. I think that I would definitely need to think more of this pattern of the buttons here. But I get that it exposes a functionality that is available, but people are usually not aware. And may make this accessing these features much easier. So that could be a definite usability improvement.
Yeah, I agree.
So do we have other people from usability on this, or?
No, I think 2 years ago there were
Roy, I've seen Roy, yeah.
Roy, and I think Bojan was in the beginning. But yeah, it's an issue that basically has been kind of going on in batches during sprints.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be better to at some stage have a look on saying, is this going the right direction?
Yeah.
Is there any other issue that going to face that is going to try to add the description on small devices, or
I don't think so.
Yeah, because I think that just removing content is not exactly our pattern. Probably not in this issue, but maybe a follow-up or something like that. We could do another issue.
Yeah,
I don't know, what do you think?
Normally you would have like this link where you would see everything. Like if it would be a table, a responsive table, right? Then it would have
they show all
the high, lower priority. Yeah, that one. Yeah. And you would
Is it
click
not a
that.
template?
That's on all responsive tables. Yeah, I think it's a built-in feature of tables.
Or in which case, the modules page is not a table made in views, I assume.
I don't think it needs to be a view.
Yeah.
With this, I mean, any table.
I know it can't be either. Anyway.
Yeah. Like. Like permissions not view either. Well, this is a different feature anyway. But there's yeah. So I think it's a built-in feature of responsive tables in core. So you don't need to be a view. But the extend page is sort of a table, but not really a table.
And yeah, several tables as well. Like each of the groups have a different table.
Yeah.
Which means they end up with different widths at some stage as well. Or would it make more sense to actually just look at that whole page and see whether both of them could be fixed together?
Well, ideally yes, but maybe it just takes too much time. I mean, separating them, maybe it's easier to solve and to have a quick fix.
Yeah.
So it is a table with the description in a column. So, and it's a low priority thing. So it already has the priority information, so that's why it's hidden. So it has all the things that the responsive table usually has. So I guess the only thing it does not have is the control to show them on a mobile device, which would enable that feature, which is probably hidden because it's multiple tables, and it would be confusing.
Yeah, you would have to edit on every single table.
Yeah. So they would need to have some custom JavaScript for this page to apply to every table, or none of the tables, or whatever. It would have something up here. So that would solve the description, but it would still not solve the. So this is not only exposes the actions, but also, well, it exposes them on desktops, and even if you have enough space already. So not just for the case when you don't have enough space.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would try to get more eyes involved in this, but I think it's. I see the value. I'm not concerned for the cutoff on descriptions, honestly, because once it cuts off to a state where it's not readable anymore, it's too short, then it disappears anyway. So I don't think that's a concern. I think people would expect to click this arrow thing, and it makes does what it's supposed to do. I guess, to open this down. So I think that's fine.
Okay.
I would be more interested in feedback on the buttons and the variants of the buttons, and if that's a good idea.
Yeah, the problem with giving the buttons a fixed width was that that then gets messy in other languages.
Oh, yeah.
The buttons now come from as the buttons are in other at other places. So they basically get the maximum width of whatever the longest word is.
Yeah.
The minimum width. So minimum width will fix most of the situations, maybe, and will then give problems with with other languages.
So I didn't quite catch that.
we could use, instead of using a fixed width, we could use a minimum width.
Okay, yeah.
So we could have them with the same width, at least in English, and it couldn't give problems with other languages because we are not fixing the width.
Okay, yeah. Should I write those things up in a comment and then come back to this issue at another UX meeting to see?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
Okay. I do that. Yeah. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. All right. Do we want to look at the bulk operations one?
Okay. So I'm gonna share. So what I've done is just address some of the things that we already discussed on another meeting. What I first that I would like to
Sorry,
show
can you zoom in?
Sorry?
Yeah, yes, that's what I was asking for, to zoom in. Yep, thank you.
Yeah. So the first one will be to have, so in general, we had 3 different situations for filters and operations together. One is only with filters, the other is only with operations, and the other is filters and operations together. And when we have only filters, we have several filters or standalone filters. And what I did is a proposal for standalone filters with a different design. So right now, what we have is, let me check. Yeah, what we have here is a mix of different this standalone filter, where we have, for example, the description. It have different width depending on the place where is it. And sometimes it has a field set around it, and it has the action alone, or it's just an input itself. And what I was proposing, if it's on a standalone filter, only a search input, a text input, to add the loop here, because it's easier to understand that it's an input filter, and that what you have to do is to search text and to put together the description and the placeholder here. Because right now what we are saying is a placeholder here, for example, and a description that is saying the same, for example. Both here we can see it on the install page. We have the placeholder and the description. So what I did is to put it together, and I proposed 3 things. One is to have a bigger input text inside the field set. The other one is to have the same width inside the filter, and the third one, the one that I prefer, is just having a bigger input with the loop here and the description inside, while placeholder.
Without a visible filter label.
Exactly. So, sorry, what do you think? There are 3 options, or we could just have the input itself alone, but it's, yeah, I just forgot these 4 options that for putting it up leaving it as it is, but making them all similar, look the same. So what do you think? Option A is a field set with a bigger input. Option B, filter with a small and normal input, and option C is the bigger one. What do you think about having a bigger input style?
I think having a bigger field and also having it look the same on all of these different admin pages is definitely a good improvement. I don't know about leaving out the label, because I suppose that will be an accessibility issue if we leave that out.
Well, we can have a label that's announced, but it's not printed.
Okay.
Visibly hidden, yeah, visually hidden.
Yeah, visually hidden. So.
Like that in some places. At least in views, that one was the one that I like the most. So definitely I will add the loop here because it suggests that it's a search input. And I don't know, any other thought about that?
So is this always acting right away on the page without pressing buttons, right? So this is live search or live filtering.
Yeah.
So that's why we don't have a filter button.
Yeah.
Yeah, I personally think if we don't have more fields that we need to put there and we don't have a button, then having that extra gray field set in the border and everything would be an overkill. And we can have a filter label that's visually hidden and announced for accessibility, but also the field itself has placeholder text that it says it's a filter. So if that's announced also, then I think that may in itself be enough. I'm not an accessibility expert, but that could be enough.
I'm pretty sure we can make the design C accessible. Yeah. Yeah, my preference would be for C. It's a relatively, it's not a power tool, but it's not an essential part, right? It's a handy extra thing for when the screen gets long or when there's a lot happening. So it probably doesn't need the visual prominence that it has A and B. And I think it's pretty smart design to counter that a little bit with making the actual feel, the actual form element a bit bigger, a bit higher, and the additional magnifying glass. So a good tweak as well. So yeah, I would aim for C in this case. Yes.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I like C as well. The magnifying glass, is that pretty dark? I can't tell on the screen. I'm just wondering if it would be, as a user, if you would think that's a button, because a lot of inputs have
the handle is glass. Relatively dark. Yeah.
Yeah. What about lightening that up a little bit, almost like a placeholder, so it didn't look like a button? Not that it looks like a button, but maybe as expected functionality behind that.
Yeah, I think the only pattern that we have an icon here is the one that is for when it's loading something.
Yeah, it's the auto suggest, right? It has a little circle. Or the auto, what's it called? Complete.
Yeah, the throbber.
Yeah. Maybe it should like hover a bit when you type, like ooh, searching.
No, but when you're typing, you will see that it's getting less anyway. So you're not clicking on it before you've typed anything into it anyway.
Right. Yeah.
Would it be worth putting in that throbber? because it's almost like it's like a live. It works similar to the autocomplete where, you know, it's kind of pulling a query. I'm not sure though. Wouldn't want to confuse those two elements either.
Sure, you should combine them.
Is on the extend page. So it doesn't use Ajax, so we wouldn't have the through the uninstall that did the same behavior. I think BIOS is also the same, and this one is the only one that has a separate button.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know exactly how this one works.
Yeah, we don't have a right. So Christian, as for confusing it with a button, we don't actually. Except for the one in we're seeing here, we don't have the existing pattern of having to click something to have the filter work. So the button confusion is probably not that likely.
Why do we have a button on that one?
Because Drupal, I think it's old.
This is a server-side filter, and the other ones are client-side filters.
It's actual search.
Yeah, this is a search. Yeah, so this, like, aliases are run on multiple pages. There can be hundreds of pages. And
yeah, okay.
it's not possible to filter it on the page. So I think that's why I mentioned it before, that the other ones are running on the page, and these ones are running on the server. So we don't necessarily need to differentiate them, but at least we need a button here because there's no other way to conveniently ensure that you run this server-side search. You would need to guess you need to press enter or something.
Yeah. I have 2 points. I think one, I saw just on the extend page also, it's really nice to have the description in the text field, because on some pages we have like the text above the search field, and then the search field, and then the description text underneath it again. So uncluttering that by putting the text in there, I think is a great idea. I'm just now wondering, when we have admin pages where the table is made in a view, and then this filter comes actually from views, can we make some consistency in how it looks there? Because those ones will be the one where we have the filter or apply button behind the text field.
So this is where you create your own view and expose this thing.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a further design. Yeah, something to look into. Could you maybe provide a screenshot of that, Antje?
Yeah.
As an example.
Yeah.
Of how that current output looks.
Yeah, I can put that on the issue. Yeah.
Okay. Then
I really like how we. Good work, Christina, because I really like the consideration to all the detail that you're showing here. And it makes a lot of sense. So.
Yeah. I don't know exactly this one, how to solve this one, because we don't have, like, in this integration the button and the field set. I can't think right now in any pattern style that. So I will give another thought to that.
Yeah, I mean we're probably not going to cover 100% of anything. So if this has to stay like this in a way, then that's okay too.
Okay. Then
who's going to provide some feedback and recap the discussion we had here?
Okay. And there's more.
Oh, sorry.
One more thing.
Yes.
Well, there's a small thing related to Yeah, there's a small thing about having a little bit more of a space between each of the filters here, because like it was in the design on the style guide, Luis designed it with more space than the ones that are right now. I think it's here. Yeah, they are together. They are really close, and having them separated can help. Where is it? Here can help to find each of the filters easier. So it's just a small design thing that I already added on the comments, so you can answer. And the final one is we were talking about having about removing some filters on some.
So just one point on the last one you showed.
Yeah.
The whole section that you call filter, you probably need a different title there, because it can both have filters in there as well as anything to sort the results in the table underneath.
Yeah, that's filters and actions.
No. Where you have the text field and the status or so, if you have any exposed sorting criteria that the users can use, then that shows up together with the status and permissions and so there.
So if you expose sorting options, then these are added here as well, you mean?
Yeah, they added where the button is filter, which I think we've changed back to apply.
When you have more things, okay, I haven't thought on that. Yeah.
So just to know that it will need a different title than filter, because it's not only filters in there.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
That one, yeah.
Okay.
That's the problem, that we have filters and any sorting criteria together with one button. And there's no way of separating them.
Okay. I'm not really good on naming, so
just to keep it in mind that will need somebody to come up with a good word.
Okay. And yeah. Sorry, the last one. No, sorry. Do you have any other thoughts?
No, that was it. Thanks.
Can I weigh in here for a second? What is it? Hey, sorry, I just randomly joined a UX conversation. What is it we're saying are not filters here?
Sorry?
What is it that we're saying aren't filters in this section? Like,
this is a view. So if you add an exposed sorting, for example,
enough said.
By author, that shows up then together with those filters for published status there, which is what. And then you have a button that either says filter or apply or sort, depending on how you configure it.
Yeah, I believe Views calls that all just exposed form or something like that, so it's not terribly helpful either. All right, thanks.
Yeah, we've had this struggle where we renamed it to filters and then rolled the patch back a week later or something. It was sad.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll jump to the next thing. And we were saying that this one is more a question than a proposal itself. We said that we could remove some filters in some pages. Well, maybe not in content, but for example, for people, I think here I have it. Yeah, for people, for example, we have name or email, status, role, permissions. We have a lot of things, and we said that we probably could remove some of them, and that we should provide some examples or some thoughts. And I was thinking that we will probably we could use the standalone filter as is used in views. For example, here in views, I think we have several fields together here, and we could use it. We could do it in, for example, in people for filtering only names, but also roles and these things without having a select list. And I was going to propose that, but I don't know, what do you think? And I don't know if it's technically possible to have that.
Well, you there definitely have then also the problem with the sorting. Because
Okay.
yeah, you can, for example, you can filter by name, but you can also sort by name, which is two different things. I mean,
Okay.
removing some of the default options that we have in this view, I think is a good thing. Because people can always add additional filters in there if they need to.
Okay.
But yeah, you have to keep in mind that because it's a view, yeah, it can also be sorting in there.
Yeah, I haven't thought on sorting.
The other thing to keep in mind is that, like, in the case of when you're looking at the views UI, there's a fairly limited number of views that might appear on any given site. Like, you might have, say, probably no more than 100 or 200 views on a really, really big site. Whereas in the case of like users, you could literally have millions of them, and searching by both role and by username and all simultaneously, you'll get like a really like badly performing query.
Okay. That has a lot of sense. Okay. So that was all for this one. Don't know if you have any other thoughts, or I will put all this on a comment, explain what we talked today.
Very nice. No comments. Okay.
Yeah, I very much like it for the pages, like the list of views and the list of modules, and so those lists that are provided by core, I think that's great. And with the ones that come from views, I think there we need a bit more thinking on how that works once a site builder gets their hands on it as well.
Okay.
Yeah, give us some crazy examples if you can, Angie.
I will do that.
Really great.
Very nice. Thanks.
So I have a question in addition to this. Would it be worth our while to consider changing how views works so that sorts and filters are in separate forms? Like on some longer scale?
Possibly. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. So if
definitely, but I think that's a bigger job. Yes.
I think what we are up to is filters and actions are the things that are currently called filters, and actions are already jumbled together too much, and people get confused by the buttons and what's what, and that's what we've been trying to address first. That if we separate filters from sorts also, then we will potentially have 3 different things above the table that do different things.
Yeah, that sounds like it makes the problem worse, not better.
It actually makes the problem better if you want to expose the filter and the sorting at different places.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the moment, for example, if you want to expose your search field on a different page, but not the sorting, you have no way of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, therefore, I think it's definitely a worthwhile issue. But at the moment, we have the fact that we roll out the sites with these actions and filters in place, and if we can make them easier to see, That would be already a good step.
Yeah. Let's get there where we have improved things so much that would be really nice to have as well. Yeah. But I'm hearing you say, Chris, that at least that's very much possible, right?
Well, I'm not speaking to the
Not eager.
possibility of that. I'm just asking about the hypothetical utility of it, because as we all know, Views is very complicated. So any proposal to change it in some fundamental way gets dicey pretty quickly. But like just kind of gathering opinion, like yeah.
So that's also why we're agreeing to stay away from it for now.
Yep, I have no problems with that being forestalled for the foreseeable future. I'm just asking the question.
Good, thanks.
All right, do we have any other issues to discuss that I have not yet seen?
One thing I could quickly show you if people want to is there's an issue for an improved help system. And I never took the time until today to actually look at the sandbox code, the proof of concept module that Jennifer Hodgson created. I had a look today, and it's actually looks pretty nice. So if people want to look at some screenshots, I can share.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I would love to see that.
Let me do that then. So I'm sharing screen. And then let's find the issue. Help system overhaul. (2592487). Existing help system in Drupal 8 hasn't changed much. What's happening mostly is that all help right now is per core module, right? Per unit of functionality. That's not necessarily maps to what people actually want to do. So that's the non-topical bit. There's no search, there's no good way, well, markup, etc. There's a whole list of how things could be better. I'm focusing on the non-topical bit because that seems to be, I think that's, to me, it's the biggest improvement we could make user-facing. This issue outlines, well, proposes basically to improve that and what we could do to improve that. There's a proposed resolution that something technicalities, etc. But there's a proof of concept module, sandbox, and I installed that today. Let's look at what it gives us. If you install it, there's sample, let's say sample content in there as well, and it adds this section of the page. There's that right now. Proof of concept, awkward heading of configure topics, but these are the stuff. These are pages that site builders are, well, people that you can customize. And I think these are mostly empty stubs right now. What I tried when I looked into it, there's this getting started page or bit of text, and I basically tried to put that in my own getting started page. So that worked. Okay, well, that could be a getting started page. If you then look at the admin side of things, I think now lives in development. Yeah, help topics. We see a list of help pages. Many of the basic ones are locked because if you want to edit them, we get a message that this is a help page provided by modules or a theme that you probably don't want to edit. I'm guessing maybe changes would be overwritten when you update Drupal. I'm not sure, but here's the one I created myself. So you can add a new topic, and then you're asked to give it a title, whether or not it should show up on that help page we just saw as a top-level topic. We can provide relations topics to list this topic on. I didn't explore this just yet. And then there's a way to create the actual text, and this was the new, or well, this felt unfamiliar to me, a bit awkward, but I think documentation writers may be familiar with this. I'm not sure, but there's an interface like maybe a paragraphs light kind of approach to create your basically structured content for the actual help text, sorry, actual help text, and it looks like it provides its own text formats as well. And I add another item, and I can add more text. And I can say if it should be rendered, I guess, as a heading. I'm not totally understanding what's happening here yet, but I posted these screenshots to the issue. It works pretty well to have these topics where you can add help text that is focused on a certain task, right? Not on what a specific module can do. There's this list of help topics that you can create and add pages to, and then there's the, let's say, content creation page for help topics as well. Just to show you what's happening here. The issue, once again, is 259-2487.
I put it in the channel.
Yeah, thanks. I know it's probably a discussion point that goes back longer than 2015, but I was happily surprised to see what the actual proof of concept module that Jennifer had written already provides. I reviewed it, or at least posted this, and very much invited people to rally around this and move forward if they want to do this, because it seems like a worthwhile improvement for Drupal.
So these are all config entities, right?
You're asking me?
I'm throwing it into the universe.
Yeah, please do.
Given that the text is written in paragraphs, I doubt that that's configuration. That's content. At least the text you're writing is definitely content.
I mean, I'm calling it paragraphs because it looks like, right?
No, it is paragraphs.
Okay.
I can see that.
Because I did not install paragraphs, right? It's only this proof of concept module. So, okay.
But yeah, I think it's great if we can get, like, in addition to the explaining what each module does, actually give people help that is useful for helping them to get something done, and have that actually on the site that we deliver to a client, instead of sending them then a Word document that has those stuff on it.
Yeah, this is the win, right? Yeah, to be able to provide these topical help pages.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a pretty good idea. There's some other questions I have on whether it would be useful because users afterwards don't need to see the list of modules that have stuff in there that they can't do anything with it. But that's more detail, I think. And the question is, it would mean that you actually have help that is available before you install the module, which is also
wow, yeah, right. Yeah.
How is it available before we install the module?
But so far, if unless you install a module, you can't actually see the help page for the module.
Right.
So you don't really know what the module does until you have it installed. With these help pages, it looks like the stuff like getting started or so would be pages that are available independent on whether the modules for it are enabled.
Right, but core would have to support that. Like we couldn't
Yeah.
expect contrib modules to have like some sort of help page available before they're actually installed, right?
Yeah. That module that provides these help pages needs to be available, but the module, for example, for I don't know, any core module that isn't enabled by default.
Yeah, core could provide the basic help for modules as part of the help module.
Right, it's
Yeah.
probably not in scope to have core provide how to build an e-commerce site, right, and link to the necessary modules you would need to install for that. That's true.
I just worry that treating core's modules specially will have some degree of like longer term ramifications.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's. I think mostly the goal is to go beyond individual modules, right, and help people understand. This is how you model content. This is how you build navigation. This is how you. And this is where you go to find stuff we didn't cover yet. Link.
And this is where, as a site builder, you can put in this is how the workflow is for this project or so.
Yeah.
I understand this correctly.
Project-specific documentation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, just showing it. If people are interested, they should follow up in the issue. Okay, that's it.
Thanks.
Yeah, very cool. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. So I think we ran out of our time for today then. So thanks everyone for attending. Let's keep each other posted. I think we wanted to follow up on the modules page, action links, and the bulk actions and filters and all the issues that we reviewed today.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So keep up the great work. Thank you.
Yes. Thanks all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.